Hi, this is Doug Bradley, owner of InlandEmpireLawyers.com. And I'm actually here today with attorney Crista Haynes, who practices primarily family law and criminal defense from her Redlands office. Crista, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate your time.
It's
I
my pleasure.
Excellent. I really just wanted to talk to you today, kind of all about your practice, but I thought I'd get started first with how you really just got interested in law.
I went to Cal State Long Beach and as an undergrad, and I studied criminal justice. And while going to school, I interned with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department in their homicide unit. And I got to help develop a software program that helped them identify ligature marks, which was very awesome at that point, which then helped me promulgate my path towards going into the law. Initially, I thought that I probably would go primarily into criminal defense work, and I do still do some of it, but through my activities in my interning and my volunteering when I was in law school, I had a newfound love for family law because I worked for the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court when there was still a family law division there in their self-help division, and was able to help people with their forms and help pro per litigants prepare for court.
Okay. Um, Tell me a little bit about your practice. What do you practice now? How did you get started? I know pretty much right out of law school, you went into private practice, and you're still in private practice now. What kind of cases do you work with primarily?
Primarily now, I would say that about 80% of my practice is family law, and the other 20% would be criminal defense work. And so with that family law practice, I practice paternity cases, parentage cases for same-sex couples, divorces, legal separation, annulments, premarital agreements, post-nuptial agreements, as well as all of the areas in between. So child custody, visitation, support, both child and spousal support, property division, debt
Wow,
division. And I also
that's a lot.
handle juvenile cases, both in delinquency and dependency.
Okay, okay. And from what I understand, your practice is fairly unique in the juvenile dependency realm, right?
Correct. There are very few true private attorneys who handle dependency cases across Southern California. Most private attorneys who practice in that realm have contracts with the state and get paid by the state to handle pro per litigants because it is their right to have counsel in those realms. There are about 3 private attorneys in this area that handle them for individuals who actually want to hire an attorney to go in and practice in that area. It is required for the attorney who's going to practice before a juvenile dependency court to take additional education to be able to prove that they are competent in that area of law. And I think that scares people away from it, as well as the longevity of the cases, because they can range from 6 months to 24 months on each individual case.
Yeah, and I imagine that those are tough cases to come across, and you encounter a wide variety of people with a wide variety of issues. Just in regards to the practice overall, what would you say are some of the most I don't want to say common, but the things that you come across the most in your area of practice? Obviously, you're in Redlands. You serve clients throughout the Inland Empire, San Bernardino, and Riverside County and beyond. What is most of your practice?
Most of my practice has to deal with child custody and visitation because it's going to be the most common thing for both divorces and parentage cases. And with that, it comes with child support and some move away cases, because Southern California is kind of a hub to so many other places that even though you may be only moving from, say, Redlands Two Needles. It's
Mm-hmm.
still the same county, but 3 hours away. So we do encounter quite a few move away cases, which have to deal with child custody and visitation.
Okay. And if you're talking to a new client about either a child support, establishing a child support or custody order, or a modification of some sort, what do they really need to come to you prepared with in order to tackle that?
Well, it first depends on whether or not the Department of Child Support Services is assisting them with their case,
Mm-hmm.
or whether or not the child support orders are out of their family law case.
Gotcha.
There are different things that have to occur in each of those two realms, but nevertheless, the things that people actually have to come with, regardless of where the venue is that's handling their case, is their two last pay stubs and their last year's tax return, because those are the two documents that both the Department of Child Support Services as well as the judge in a family law realm are going to look to establish their income.
Okay.
Because income is the number one factor aside from the timeshare that the parents share the children, that the court looks to establish a guideline child support amount.
Gotcha. Okay. And just kind of hearing you talk, I've worked with a lot of attorneys throughout the years, and I've heard a lot of cases about some of the toughest things that they tend to encounter. In your practice, what would you say are some of the more complex legal issues or case matters that you deal with on a regular basis?
I would have to say there are two very common difficult issues. One being establishing what an individual actually makes from an income standpoint. This day and age, a lot of people own their own businesses. They are 1099 contractors. They have kind of a mixed media of income, meaning that they have a regular job, but they supplement their
Mm-hmm.
income by bartending at night or being a waitress or a startup business. And
It's like a gig economy, huh?
yeah, so it can be very difficult to establish what someone's true income actually is, which is very important for both child support as well as spousal support, but it also comes into play when dealing with the realm of attorney's fees, because quite often there are people that need access to attorneys, but they don't have access to any of the funds that their former partner may have access to because they don't have access to the bank account.
Gotcha.
Well, when you're trying to establish that someone has a plethora of money, yet they own their own business and they're able to hide their money in a corporation per
Mm-hmm.
se, it can be very difficult. The second most common but difficult issue that I deal with is the division of assets, because this day and age, there are couples that come to me with very little, which makes it very difficult to figure out how you're going to divide very little. But you're also going to have couples that own multiple homes, and there are tax consequences with those divisions, as well as just figuring out how to ascertain when you appraise a property.
Mm-hmm.
Is it at the time of separation? Is it at some other time in the future? Is it at the time of trial? As well as just being able to get the right players on your side, such as a expert in real estate to be able to help you with appraisals, an escrow company, or somebody to help the individuals, both the petitioner and the respondent, understand that there are other options than simply selling the community property home. They can refinance the home.
Mm-hmm.
One person can assume the mortgage, which sometimes is a better option
Mm-hmm.
depending on when they purchase the home and what the new APR rates are regarding remortgaging the home, because sometimes it can be very detrimental to the person staying in.
Sure.
If they were at a 3.5 and now they're going to be at a 4.9.
Right. Yeah, and I've read a bit about California's, correct me if I'm wrong, the FLARPL.
Yes.
So if correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not an attorney. So if somebody's looking to get a divorce, essentially they can have the attorney lien the home, in lieu of fees until the divorce is finalized, and then the sale of the home, the proceeds can pay for the attorney. Is that accurate, or is there something I'm missing there?
A florple is essentially a family law attorney's lien against the property, which does allow for essentially exactly what you said, for an attorney to say, you don't have to pay me, but just know that your bill is going to be paid at the time that the home is sold. There are some attorneys who rely heavily on this tactic to get paid. I personally don't file flarples. I find that it is too much of a conflict of interest for my own personal taste, just because if that's the only asset that they have and you end up taking all of the equity in the home, then they end up with nothing.
Sure. Okay. Understood. And since we're on the subject of fees, a lot of people who have either never hired an attorney before, or maybe aren't very familiar with how it works, so they really don't have an idea of how they can pay for their attorney, or how much they cost, things like that. And I imagine you get a lot of those questions fairly often. What are some of the costs associated with general cases, and how do you approach either if a client is going to pay you a retainer, a fixed fee, how they pay for it out of pocket? What are your opinions on that?
So each individual case is going to be different. So my office does offer free consultations, and during the free consultation, it does allow me to be able to ascertain as much information about exactly where their case is at, what the issues are, and what they intend to get out of the case. If someone comes to me with a contested divorce, there's very little ability from either the client's perspective or even my perspective to know how it will travel in the next 6 to 12 months or even longer in some circumstances. And on those types of cases, I do offer an hourly rate with a retainer. However, I also recognize that there are simple cases that come to me in a more confined realm, meaning that they are asking for one specific thing to a court, a modification of child custody and visitation after a judgment, a move-away case, juvenile dependency cases, and in those circumstances, I typically offer flat fees with payment plans, which allows people to know exactly what they're getting themselves into, which makes it a lot easier to plan, to reach out to friends and family to ask them for loans, to be able to make the payments so that they can have adequate assistance with their case.
Excellent. Well, I think I've answered everything that I kind of wanted to talk to you about. If you'd like more information about Crista and her practice, you can go to CristaHaynesLaw.com. I'll link to it in the description of this video. That's CristaHaynes Law.com. Or you can call her at 833-526-5197. Or you can go to InlandEmpireLawyers.com and search for Crista Haynes there. So thank you so much, Crista. I appreciate your time, and thank you for joining me today.
All right. Thanks, Doug.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.